Hello and welcome to Lightning Talks. Integrate is my favorite conference of the year. I get to travel to London, there's good food, amazing people, you people of course, and we get to talk about Logic Apps. Now speaking about talking Logic Apps, if there's one thing I don't like, is that I often have to choose what content to include and what content to leave out. Because there's so much interesting stuff, we've taken all the sessions and then some if we want to cover them all. Which is why this year, we're dedicating this session for Lightning Talks. They're 5 to 10 minutes each, and we have software engineer, program managers, content designers, and UX designers that will be covering a wide range of topics that I'm sure you will find interesting. So without further ado, fasten your seatbelt, or just grab a cup of coffee. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, I'm Sonali here from the Azure Logic Apps front-end team, and I'm very excited to be here with you all today to share some of the new and exciting improvements and highlights in the Logic Apps designer world. The designer is the space where users can interact with and author their workflows, adding triggers and actions. I like to think of it as a lovely modern graphical user interface, or better yet, a canvas, where users can add actions, connecting them to different services that we make possible. They can configure these actions, drag and drop them, visualize their workflows, and so much more. So let's dive right into it. So here we have the new Logic Apps Designer. And if you're familiar with the old Logic Apps Designer, you'll immediately notice here that the new designer has a much more modern look and feel. The cards are no longer clunky and filled with information. The edges in card design are much cleaner. The graph itself is also more compact and easier to visualize overall. So let me quickly jump back in time to show you the old designer for comparison with the exact same workflow that we have rendered here. So you'll notice right off the bat here that the cards were much larger, had a lot more information, and in some cases also had a lot of white space that wasn't used. And as such, it made it very tough for users to visualize their graphs overall. All right, let's jump back to the new designer to see what some of these new improvements are and how we were able to support them. So first off, one big change that I wanted to highlight was that we have separated out graph visualization from the configuration of our cards through the utilization of a config panel, in which we handle all the card configuration so that the canvas can be used just to visualize and organize the workflow with a few config controls like deleting a card and dragging and dropping a card, which I'll be demoing shortly. The panel has the card configuration split into nice tabs that users can toggle in between as they edit their workflow. Users may also jump in between cards and between tabs here and configure their cards as necessary. This has also reduced the number of clicks significantly during the authoring process, making it much more efficient for our users. I will now show you what it's like to add an action into your workflow by clicking one of these Add Action buttons that you see all around. So let's click on this one and we can click on Add an Action here. This will pop up with 2 tabs here showing our built-in actions as well as our Azure connectors. You can toggle between these as well or search for your actions here. Let me go ahead and click on an HTTP card for now and get that added in. And once that's added here, we can see certain information about the card in the panel. First and foremost, we have the title here, which we can actually go ahead and edit at this point. So let me backspace here to add a new title. Let's call it New HTTP Title. All right, and when I click away from that, you'll see that that gets updated here in the card. We can also add a comment for the card by clicking on this menu here and clicking on Add a Comment. Here we can type in any comment we'd like. So let's call this is a comment. All right. And you'll see that when I clicked away, it updated the comment within the card, and this is the design for that. So let me now give you a quick look into what the new drag and drop design looks like. So first and foremost, you'll see that the cards now have a gripper icon indicating to our users that our cards are indeed draggable. You'll see that for all the cards besides the trigger, as the trigger is not draggable. So here, let's go ahead and drag this card over to the true block. And you'll see that when a card can be dropped in a specific location, it will have this design here showing that you are allowed to drop the card. So let's do that. Cool. So one card that cannot be dragged into a specific location is this one. And let's drag that over into the true block down here. And you'll see that it has the blocked icon showing it cannot be dropped. And the last change that I wanted to highlight is in our new integration with Dagger and JS Plum, which are open source JavaScript libraries for rendering nodes and building connectivity in applications respectively. This has allowed us to render far more complex graphs and support parallelism in places that we were not able to prior, which has shown a lot of customer excitement already. So quickly, let me show you what it's like to add a parallel node within your graph. So with this node right here, let's click on Insert a New Step and go ahead and click on Add a Parallel Branch. That will add a parallel node here as a sibling to the existing child node. And here we can add our action as we did before. And we now have a parallel node. So those are some of the features that we've been working hard at, and we're very excited about delivering them to our customers. And with the strong foundation that we've laid in our new designer, and with the endless amount of possibilities it has opened up for us, we really look forward to all the upcoming features that we have planned, and we hope you all do too. So stay tuned for more.
Hi everyone, I'm Xiaowei Jiang from Logic Apps Design and Research Team. Today, I'm going to briefly introduce our team, share our journey with the new designer, and in the end, show some designs coming up soon. So first, what is design and research behind Logic Apps? Here, we are a team consist of UX designers like me, researchers, and content designers. Our goal is to understand the need of you, our customers, so we can improve Logic Apps to empower you to achieve your goals. To show more behind-the-scenes stories, I will go through our journey with the new designer. With the new standard Logic Apps, we did a refresh on Designer. The biggest difference between this new designer and what you might be familiar with in the past is how actions are configured. Previously, you would configure actions in the workflow itself with expanded cards. Now, actions are configured in the right panel, and your workflow stays intact. Why did we make this change? Because we heard you. In many customer sessions, including the interviews we conducted, we learned that one of the top pain points you had with Designer was its usability in complex scenarios. We wanted to change that for you. We dug deeper into the reasons why Designer was difficult to use and did explorations trying to address the issues. We also worked with teams across Microsoft with similar workflow building experiences, trying to align on the directions, so you could have a consistent experience if you also use these other products. Once we had a few ideas that may improve the designer experience, we wanted to get feedback directly from you. We've reached out in a couple of different ways. The first and more common one was unmoderated studies. For Designer Refresh, we sent out prototypes and questionnaires so you could interact with in-progress designs and let us know which one you thought would work best for you. These unmoderated sessions usually take about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, and they can be done at any time remotely. Receiving feedback at early stages is very important to us. Based on what we learned from these studies, we were able to narrow down to the panel approach, which you see today in the new designer. In the questionnaires, we try to include different tasks to learn about different aspects of the experience. For example, we did a click test to learn what you expect to do to collapse and expand true and false branches. Based on what you told us, we deliver what you see in the new designer today. We also did moderated studies. that we schedule meetings with you to show in-progress designs and have a conversation with you to understand what you think of them. These model-release sessions usually take about 60 to 90 minutes. Many of the upcoming designs are heavily influenced by these model-release sessions we did in the past few months. We don't just do research on in-progress designs. We want to learn how you would achieve your goals in real life and how we could help make it easier. With Ethnography Studies, we asked you to record yourself working on something you need or want to do in real life. You can do it at your own pace, searching for documentations, building workflows in Designer, troubleshooting runs. Your entire experience matters to us. We did a few such studies in the past, and we learned from you which we should be working on next. A quick recap on the different studies we did and would do more for Logic Apps. Short and moderate studies that you can do at any time. In-depth moderated studies that you can share whatever you think with us. And real-life ethnography study that you can do at your own pace. Thank you so much for those of you who helped us in the previous studies. For all of you, if you are interested to participate in upcoming studies, please watch for study announcements in Yammer if your company is in the Azure Connection programs, or join the Cloud Design Insiders community using the QR code on the right. We'll send recruitment emails when studies came up. Of course, you can always let us know what you think by providing feedback in Azure Portal, social media, or any other platforms you prefer. Now, I would like to share 2 designs you can expect to see soon. First, there will be a new dark theme. We hope to improve usability and accessibility with this new color system. Please let us know what you think when you see it in the portal. Then, we want to improve your interactions with run after configurations. You will have a lot more flexibility configuring which previous actions an action runs after and see indications accordingly in the workflow. With this update, you can also create workflows with more complex shapes. Again, please don't hesitate to let us know what you think. That's all from me today. Thank you for watching.
Hi there, my name is Laura and I work for Microsoft Docs. Today, I'll be demoing how you can make contributions to the Logic Apps documentation. Our documentation is open source and it's available in the Azure Docs repo on GitHub. We welcome everyone who uses our doc set to submit updates, additions, and improvements. So, if you see something in the docs that you want changed, please send it our way. Before we start, you'll need to be signed into your GitHub account. If you don't have one already, you can sign up for an account for free. Now, go to the Logic Apps doc that you want to make changes to. In the top right-hand corner of the screen, select the Edit button. This will take you to the source of that doc on GitHub. Now you're in the version of that file in the GitHub repo. Select the pencil icon in the content header. This will open the doc file for editing. All our docs are written in Markdown syntax. So, make your edits to the file in the online GitHub editor. You can toggle between Edit File and Preview to see what your changes will look like at any time. When you're done making changes, scroll down to the Proposed Changes section. Add a title and a description for your changes. Then, select the Proposed Changes button. This puts your changes on a new patch branch in your fork of the Docs repo. If you don't have a fork already, one will be created for you automatically. Next, you'll see a prompt to open a pull request, which will be auto-filled with the details of your changes, including the patch branch that was created for your changes. Scroll down on the page and you'll see a diff to compare your proposed changes to the original doc. Check that everything looks right here before moving on. Then, scroll back up and select the Create Pull Request button. This officially submits your proposed changes to us. Your pull request automatically goes into our queue for review. Someone from Docs will look at your proposed changes and may reach out with questions or comments. If your changes are accepted, we will merge them into the Docs set. After your changes are published, you'll be listed publicly as a contributor in that doc. Your contribution activity will also be shown on your GitHub profile if you have that setting enabled. For more information, please check out the Docs Contributor Guide at the following link. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to your continued contributions.
Welcome to the Lightning Talk for Automation Tasks. I'm Parth and I'm a PM at Logic Apps. Today, in this short duration, I will go over the motivation behind tasks, what it is through a small demo, and the road ahead. So what did it look like before tasks? What did automation look like? On Azure, for a user, Logic Apps was basically the only automation engine through which they can go about integrating and solving for their automation needs. This required knowing about Logic Apps and going about building the entire workflow. Not only that, but you would also have to be on top of your connectors and the configurations. It could get really messy really quick, and tasks was meant to streamline this process to make it easier and faster for the Azure user to add automation. So the problem was that there was a missing link between Azure resource users and Logic Apps on two main ends. The first was definitely to have the education to be able to use Logic Apps, and the second was to have in-resource automation tooling and not to actually go about creating a resource for Logic App. Task solves that. It abstracts away the complexity of Logic Apps and is on the resource itself. Let's see how it looks like. For a small visual representation, this is what it would look like on a virtual machine resource. In the portal blade under automation, there is the TOC for tasks through which the user can go about adding one. This is an updated UI that we're going to be releasing by June, so look out for that. So what do I mean when I say quick and simple automation for the Azure resource user? Well, there's no coder designer involved whatsoever. When you go through the TOC to go about adding a task, you simply are prompted to select a template, which is the first step. The second step wherein you just have to authenticate using your credentials. And the third step where you only have to fill out important fields. And then a task will be created. This task will provide automation depending on that template scenario. Now you can also open this task in Logic App because it's powered by a Logic App. You can see the run history of the task, and you can also open the task in Designer and then go about adding more actions or editing it further. Let's check it out in demo. All right, so in this video, I will give you a walkthrough of automation tasks and also introduce you to what it is. So automation tasks is basically a blade feature, a portal blade feature which helps you automate for your resources. So let's pick an example and see it in the works. So let's pick a storage account resource here. As a user, I want to be able to maintain my containers and delete blobs older than a particular age to keep my storage account up to date. So I may simply go onto the portal blade and tasks, which is under automation here. You'll be encountered with something like this. I may click on add and be presented with a couple of cases, scenarios for automation. So in this particular case, for my storage account, I just want to be able to delete blobs of a certain age so I can keep my container up to date. Now I've already created a connection to the storage account that I'm in. Storage account is one of the resources that we offer dynamic connection creation experiences on. And simply you may then enter the task name. So let's say delete old. The container name, in my case, it is called container. And the expiration age, let's say 30 days. And yep, so as you can see, I just had to enter some simple fields and click on create. And there we go. There we have it. This is your automation task. You can also edit this automation task. You can edit the connections from here. And you can also the configuration of this particular task. So you can change, the fields and update it accordingly. Now let me tell you a secret. This task is actually a logic app. So when you do open this particular task in Logic App view, you will see the Logic App, view of it, and you already see this. There has already been a run that has succeeded. But the idea here is that the user can simply edit the Logic App that is running behind here, and also explore the automation capabilities of Logic Apps from here. So let's go back to our tasks for storage account. A user may also be able to view their runs here. So if there's anything that goes wrong, it essentially is like a Logic App run history view. And you may be able to query for the inputs and outputs. And yep, that's pretty much it. That's tasks. So what's next for tasks? Well, first, we want to be able to support tasks on all Azure artifacts. Today, we only support it on first-class Azure resources. We want to be able to have it on resource groups, subscriptions, sub-resources, security center, and backup center. We also want additional templates, so more scenarios and more automation task templates to be able to cater to more needs for Azure resource users. Here, this is a place where you can particularly help as well. So please let us know if there are any scenarios that you would like to see. I will also leave a link down below to the current repository of templates where you can also contribute to. We're also planning to have a UI to be able to export any Logic app to an automation task template. This is also something that we're planning to achieve at the end of this year. And this is the last one is kind of a longer ask. We're trying to run tasks on standard runtime as well. Currently, it's only supported in consumption. So if there are any particular template ideas you would like to see for standard for tasks, please let us know in the forum below as well. Thank you for tuning into the lightning talk. Here's the link for the GitHub repo for all the templates that are currently present. Feel free to fork it and have a parameterized Logic app be a PR on that one. You can also see what an automation task is through that link and also give us any general feedback you have and some template scenarios. So please let us know that and be able to contribute to this current repository of templates that we have today. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Henry from the Logic Apps team, and today I'm going to be doing a deep dive into how inline JavaScript code works in Logic Apps Standard. So you might know that we've had inline JavaScript functionality in Logic Apps Consumption as well, but that requires the use of an integration account. Basically, we were running JavaScript code through an Azure function on top of their Node.js stack. But now that Logic Apps Standard is built on top of functions, we've included inline JavaScript as one of our built-in actions. So here I have a simple logic app that starts with a HTTP request trigger. It runs inline JavaScript, and then as a response, we have the body being the output from my JavaScript action. An important feature we have is that you're able to reference trigger or action content dynamically through JavaScript. And what this looks like is you can do add dynamic content. And if you want to reference, say, the trigger body, you can go here and just click body, and that will add a what is essentially a variable. And at runtime, we inject the value of the trigger body into this variable. So I can use this as any other variable, like let foo equals trigger body, and then I can also return foo. So what this means is we basically have a logic app that echoes the request body as the response body. Now I've just saved it and I'll press F5 to run this. So when the logic app starts up, we do a static analysis on the user code. And if we see something like workflow context.trigger, we know to inject the trigger content at runtime. If we don't see this, we don't inject anything. And that's for performance optimization. So we don't add any data that we don't need. All right. You may also notice we have a new function here called workflow node worker and has a JavaScript trigger. This is what runs the JavaScript code under the hood. Now, if I go to the overview page, I can grab the callback URL and then I'll paste it in Postman and send a request with hey as the body. And we get hey back as expected. So let's say you were referencing something dynamically, like you didn't know that you were going to reference the trigger. So instead, if we had something that gets invalidated at runtime, like I'm just going to be doing a simple string concatenation. So if we had something like trigger, but split into two, the static analysis that we do at load time won't be able to know that this references the trigger. So what happens is that if I save the logic app and run it, we should get an error. And you can see that we got a 502. Okay, now if we go to the run history and try to find out what went wrong, you can see the failed run here, and I'll click show run. So the JavaScript action through a error that says execution failed with error, the trigger is not provided, the trigger is not in the provided workflow context. Try including the trigger by setting the action explicit dependency. What this is saying is that we're trying to access the trigger content, but the static analysis didn't think that we were going to reference the content, so the trigger content was not loaded. To get around this, what we can do is add a new parameter and say that the trigger set it as yes, and this will always load trigger content. Now, if we save this again and go to Postman, you can see that the logic app is back to working condition. So this kind of workaround, if you're, say, referencing something dynamically like this, that's only evaluated at runtime, what you want to do is go here and add explicit references to actions or triggers. And if I had some action that I want to reference, I would just put the action name here. Now that inline JavaScript is built into the functions runtime, the logic apps runtime, we have much higher limits. For example, the code characters you can write in the code field has been increased from 1024 characters to 100,000 characters. And we've also increased the run duration for this action to 15 seconds. This is because since we're not making any outbound calls to a different integration account, we can support much more complex JavaScript actions. We hope you enjoy this feature, and we would love to hear any feedback that you may have.
So this concludes the lightning talk. I hope you liked the content, and please do let us know your feedback on the format of this session. Enjoy the rest of your conference, and have a nice day.
Cove.co